Eddieisok here. I'm with Brian Harvey, and we're going to have a bit of a discussion about a video Brian done the other day. I'm sure most people have seen it. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure Brian will put it in the link somewhere down below, so you can actually have a look at it, so you can get the a feel of actually what's going on. First thing first, I want to say this. I did mention before that I did a speech at Whitehall for Justice for Our Boys, and a friend of Brian's saw my speech, and he said, well, basically he said to Brian, listen, you want to listen to this guy, because, I mean, basically people know me, I'll just tell it as it is, and when I actually met up with Brian, and he showed me a few things, what's gone on with him past tense, when he was the lead singer of E17, and what happened after. And I saw certain things there that it really it disturbed me, especially if a certain person's going through certain problems, and a bit of mental health has come into the fray, and I just think. Through personal experience, that's had a partner that had a mental health issue and who eventually passed away. I just think, from what I saw, he hasn't been given a fair deal. I think most of the public just listen to the mainstream media, and I'm sure most people listening to my voice know that the mainstream media has a lot to be desired for at this moment in time, especially with what's going on with free speech, etc. So we're talking that. I'm looking at Brian Harvey, the man. I'm not looking at Brian Harvey, E17, right? I'm looking at Brian Harvey today, right? And I think it's only fair that he should have a voice like anybody else, And if anybody's got a problem with that, then obviously you must have certain biases. So, Brian, thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you. Interviewing is not my thing. I've always said that to people. I'm mainly a talker, I just talk, brother. But you know what? For the sake of I don't give a damn what people think. That's just me, I was just tell it like it is. If you stink, I will tell you, no problem. Anybody else, I will tell them. I'm known for that. So I want you, if it's possible, to tell me how you actually got into a situation where, as far as I see, most people that have actually contacted me are shocked that they didn't even know you was going through this, and that the charge of cocaine, I was shocked to know that the judge actually threw it out of court. I didn't even know this.
I left the court without a stain on my character.
I mean, I'm sure you're going to show the clip where it says, the judge says, you're leaving the court without a stain on your character.
Yep.
And yet at the bottom of the actual newspaper clipping, it's got in big bold letters, guilty.
Yep.
And I just couldn't figure it out. I'm thinking, what is it that the media has got on someone that was a pop star and wants to ridicule him? And obviously there are certain people who we're going to bring into the fray who have been making allegations that you've been sectioned.
Yep.
Who seems to have some sort of connection with Bill Maloney, which I'm sure, oh, good, you got it up on the screen.
Yeah.
If anybody takes time to read the small writing up there, you can see it for yourself,
Right? So this week a judge
there's a big guilty under there. And I looked at that and I thought, wow. It reminds me of, it's like if you've done for free speech and you don't go with the narrative, all of a sudden they label you,
Yeah. And I have been labelled.
And I've even been labelled myself, and I laugh it off really, because I mean it is laughable. It's a weak argument. But Brian, just in your own words, because I want people to know Brian Harvey, the man, right? And why we've come to this. And this situation with John Wedger and Bill Maloney, and the comments that Brian made on the earlier video, like I said, it's going to be in the description. Take it away, Brian. Just take your time and just wherever you're going, brother.
Well, I'll start with this because you brought this up. Now, this goes back to when I was phone hacked and tapped in April 2002. And to cut a long story short, I was found not guilty a year later in the criminal trial. And the judge says here, this week a judge claims singer Brian Harvey didn't have a stain on his character. The News of the World have said, our hate-filled tapes prove him wrong. Now the problem with those tapes, and why you won't ever hear them or they won't ever turn up, is because a lot of the information on those tapes were from private telephone conversations that were being recorded, which we both know is against the law. It's a breach of the RIPA 2000, which is the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000. So it was in force when they done this to me in 2002. I was found not guilty, and no action was brought against the paper for the actual breach of my privacy, the phone tapping, the false imprisonment, and all the rest of it. Now the interesting thing, I don't want to get into the phone tapping too much at this point, is that one of the guys that phone tapped me, the head journalist on the sting operation, which was done on me, is a guy named Robert Kellaway. Robert Kellaway is the journalist that's bylined on the Millie Dowler story. Remember Millie Dowler?
Yeah,
was the 13-year-old girl that was killed by Levi Belfield, and Glenn Mulcair was doing her mobile and deleting messages which led the parents to think that she was still alive when she wasn't. Now Robert Kellaway in 2011 in the hacking inquiry, and this is quoted by Peter Jukes from Hacked Off, who live tweeted the whole trial, says Kellaway confirms he knew nothing about hacking, phone hacking, or the accessing of Millie Dowler's voicemails. Well, if that's true, how have I got his police witness statement from the same month that Millie Dowler was hacked when he's recording my telephone conversations and admitting it? So basically, this is where a lot of this is stemming from. Because my evidence is so strong, I'm being ridiculed, basically. So, and the way to do that with someone is to paint them up with a stigma of mental health problems, say that they're mad, and not ever let them get their side across unedited, and let them speak and explain their story, which is why I'm here today, explaining myself, because this needs to come out. I've been held back for so long and painted up like a nutcase, yet I'm fine to sell 22 million records and earn money out of. The second that that's not happening anymore, I'm useless, I'm a piece of rubbish, I'm no good, no one listened to him. But when given the time of day, you're going to be shocked with what I've got to say, Ed. You're going to be shocked.
Right. So, like you said, we're not going to go too much into the phone hacking because that's going to be another interview, yeah?
Yeah.
So, obviously, the original transcripts were not actually played out. This was selective. This was actually selective, what was actually given to, obviously, where it's saying here, about, you know, I mean, basically, there it is. This is what he said. This is where it's at. That's not the whole thing.
No, no. Well, the police have colluded within this because I was wrongfully imprisoned.
Because the police were given the tapes, obviously.
Well, no, they wasn't given the tapes. They was only given transcripts, from Robert Kellaway, because Robert Kellaway has been allowed to transcribe them himself. Right. So they gave and the police have requested them and taken them on. The police are supposed to get the original tapes, do their own transcribing. But in the words of Peter Jukes from Hacked Off again, who's been round here, seen all of this, agreed with me and done nothing about it. Robert Kellaway had a partner within this sting operation, and he's the guy that is the one that does all the covert audio recordings and videotaping. He done it within the John Alford case, for example. Now, his name's Comrade Brown. Now, I've got his police witness statement as well. Now, I've been assured by Peter Jukes from Hacked Off that Comrade Brown exclusively and only works with Mazza Mahmood, the fake sheikh. So Peter Jukes has said to me, all of this handing over of compilation tapes, I'll just bring that back up. All of the handing over of compilation tapes and not giving out the full originals. I don't know what's happened there, Ed.
That's all right.
I'll just bring that up again.
No problem.
Let me just bring that up
No
again.
problem.
Sorry.
We can always, you know, come back.
I'll come back to that in a minute. the editing, cutting and pasting, and only handing over of evidence that looks incriminating is typical of a Mazza Mahmood sting operation. And considering Conrad Brown, who was doing the recordings with Robert Kellaway, the head journalist on my sting, the journalist that was also bylined on the Millie Dowler story, who claims he knew nothing of it. He claims his name was put there as a professional favour to keep his byline count up. Conrad Brown, who was also doing recordings with me, along with Robert Kellaway, exclusively only works with Mazza Mahmood, the fake sheikh. So therefore, I can only assume, and on Peter Dukes' information, that Mazza Mahmood was involved in my sting operation also, even though his name never came to light.
Apart from that, there is, because concerning, now we're talking on the issue of drugs, obviously there was something else that actually came up. Explain to us where John Major brought your name up. Was it John Major brought your name up
John Major?
Explain to us what that situation is, because obviously there's a lot of people who may, there's a lot of history gone past since. Just explain the situation and what it was about.
Yeah,
please.
And this actually goes back to my original problem as to why I'm in this situation today.
Right.
You may think this has got something to do with just only the John Wedger, Bill Maloney scenario. But this actually does go all the way back to 1997 when I was in E17. And without saying too much, I found out something that shocked me, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I found out. I can't say what that is at this moment in time, but I promise you all will be revealed in the future. But this is where my problem came from, and it concerns my old manager, Tom Watkins, who also managed Bros, the Pet Shop Boys, and a few other acts that didn't work. In 1997, he wanted me to re-sign the management contract. Now, the reason that I didn't re-sign the management contract for another 5 years was because I found out what this man had done to a certain person. And it shocked the life out of me. A short time after that, I'm being walked into an interview at Top of the Pops on E17's last ever record, which I think had charted at that point, and we was at Top of the Pops. And I was called into the green room. I was told by my manager's sister, Sally, Brian, can you go and do a quick interview in the green room? It'll take you 5 minutes. Can you just quickly go and do it on your own? I kicked up a load of fuss and said, look, because Top of the Pops was at Earl Street at that point, and it was lunchtime. So I wanted to go over and have some, well, it was dinner time. I wanted to go over into the cafe and have something to eat, see all the other people that was in there. And I was told, could you go and do this on your own? Now, it's not unusual to do an interview on your own, because sometimes we used to split interviews up and to sort of take the workload off. If there's 16 interviews, if we all go and do 4 each, then it cuts the time. I was told to go to the green room at Top of the Pops, do an interview with a guy called Anthony Simon, and he was from IRN, International Regional News, I think it was, and he was new on the scene at that time. He was new, he hadn't been about very long, this journalist. And this guy, obviously we got the preliminary stuff out of the way, hi, how you doing, blah, 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 we're at Top of the Pops, we're promoting a new record, Tony's singing this one, good luck to him, you know what I mean? I'm taking a back seat on this one. And he said, oh yeah, Tony Mortimer, a couple of weeks prior, he gave an interview to I think it was The Guardian, and he said he had some quite strong views on drugs and ecstasy. He said, have you got anything to say about it? And I said, well, not really, mate, what are you asking me? And being the honest person that I am, he said to me, have you ever done them? And I said something to the words of the effect like, I've taken them. I banged 12 one night. So you speak different when you're young, don't you? So I'd done 12 one night and tried to explain to this guy that I didn't feel in any danger, and that I even drove home afterwards, and I was 30 miles an hour on the dot. Now, obviously, years later, not being a kid anymore, I can see the mistake that I made. But because when Tony was talking to this guy at The Guardian, and this guy was on quite a level, and he didn't turn Tony over, even though he could have taken any of his quotes and turned him over if he would have wanted to, and done to him what they'd done to me. Right. Because Tony was so open and honest and was saying that, you know, ecstasy is a drug of, you know, it's a lovey kind of drug. It's not like alcohol that makes you aggressive and makes you want to go and fight, makes you want to go and cuddle people and gives you a drop of your water, mate, and all that, right? Yeah. So obviously I've seen that, and then in my interview I've kind of gone the same way, thinking that I can be as honest and open as what he was. Well, I was wrong, clearly. And I made a mistake. I shouldn't have got. I should have had more of a brain in my head not to have got lured into that, especially as the management contract was about to end, and the manager knew I wasn't re-signing for whatever reason. The next day I was public enemy number one, just for saying what I did, how I felt, and it was clear that all he wanted was a quote. Now it's funny. The same guy today, Anthony Simon, is head of communications at 10 Downing Street. So obviously I feel like, have you got to just had a go at Brian Harvey at some point in order to get a job in a high place? You know, he was unknown at that point in 1997. Now he works at 10 Downing Street as head of communications. As a matter of fact, he's taken over Andy Coulson's job, who was head of communications for David Cameron, which is why I went to Downing Street. So when it says Brian Harvey stormed Downing Street, I went to see David Cameron because of the phone tapping evidence that I got, because I've also got evidence on Andy Coulson. So I'm there telling them, I've got evidence on your mates, David Cameron, you need to let me in and talk to me. And of course the press spun it once again and said, Brian Harvey's a nutcase, he looked unwell, and he was there about money that the government owed him. And this is what happens to me every time I go to tell my side of the story. So you have to ask yourself, why am I being shut down all the time? Why am I being rubbished? I've sold a hell of a lot of records. It's 22 million records that I've sold, and I feel like I know one.
So anyway, I've seen you go outside Downing Street. I've seen a recording. I see you outside Scotland Yard. Waving some letters and telling them I've got your papers here. If you want them back, basically. And no one's coming to pick up them papers.
No one's coming to pick up them papers.
No one of authority came out. Just a couple of coppers, local buds, come along.
Well, they was actually Met Security. They weren't even police.
Oh, right.
And the ones that turned up on the motorbike, they were police. And in all fairness to those two blokes, they were lovely geezers. You know, but they was. Well, they didn't arrest me. And I just couldn't go through the process of telling them the whole story front to back.
Yeah, of course,
like that, when all they needed to do was get the commissioner out, who I'd been asking to see now for a good 5-6 years. And they've changed the commissioner. You've got Cressida Dick there now, who John Wedger can talk to. You know, I can't talk to her. But the person I was after talking to was Bernard Hogan Howe. And that was because within the phone hacking, because it was Scotland Yard that run Operation Wheating, which was where the phone hacking investigation was being conducted from. And Operation Wheating had paperwork with my name on it, and decided to go through my solicitor. This is in 2012, I get told about this. They go through the solicitor that won my case in this in 2002. And his name was Richard Mallet. Now, Richard Mallet, after me getting not guilty here, he didn't file a defamation claim against the News of the World for what they did here. I've just been told I'm not guilty by the judge, and the next day the newspapers have printed guilty. And Richard Mallet, don't forget, has got Conrad Brown's police witness statement, Mazza Mahmood's partner, Robert Kellaway, the head journalist on my sting, who's also the journalist named and bylined on the Millie Dowler story, who, quoted by Peter Jukes, who live tweeted the whole hacking trial, Kellaway confirms he knew nothing of phone hacking or Millie Dowler's voicemails being accessed. Now, I tend not to believe him because I've got his police witness statement from April 2002, 26th of April 2002, where he recorded my calls. So what am I supposed to think?
And you're going to put that evidence up?
I'm going to put that. I've been putting it up for a few years.
Well, I mean, obviously within the context.
Yeah, within a new context now, where obviously I'm being heard.
Yeah, because we're just going through slowly but surely through a timeline. Yeah. And I just want to add, look, like I said, I'm pretty straight talking, and this is something I'm not used to doing. But I have to say, listen, if we're going to get any truth out of this and other injustices like Maloney Shaw, right? I think the audience need to have a bit more of an attention span than a fish. You know, you guys need to just take time and listen, right? And learn what's going on. Because if this can happen to Brian Harvey, and if it can happen to Maloney, it could be you next. All right? And I think it's very important that we just go step by step and listen to the injustice. Brian is pretty confident in what he's saying. He's pretty clear. He's pretty articulate. I couldn't express it in the way you actually did it myself. You know what I mean? I have to... for someone who's supposedly has a mental health issue, my friend, I know people with mental health issues that are extremely intelligent. You know, so we need to just get off that narrative. Yeah. You know, like Brian's going to, you know, jump off a building.
I'll just confirm for everyone now, I'm not a madman. Absolutely not. What I've actually suffered from is depression and anxiety. And I've been told by my doctor that I have bipolar affective disorder. And really, it's a mood disorder.
Mood swings.
You know, it's mood swings. I do have bouts of mania, but that's... A lot of that is to be blamed on the media and the police and everyone that's doing to me what they're doing to me now.
Well, it's understandable. I mean, you've got all this paperwork and no one seems to want to touch it.
And no one wants to listen.
Hello,
and you know you're 100% right and can
Invisible
prove
man,
it.
Invisible man.
Invisible.
The Invisible
which
man.
is why I've done a song for Bill Maloney called Invisible.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, that's right.
Because it not only represents the victims not having a voice, it represents me also.
Right. Before we continue, tell me about that song. Who was around? And, well, anyway, you say what the song's about, the Invisibles. Who are the Invisibles in the song? And tell me the structure around this thing actually being filmed.
Okay, right. So to do that, I've got to take you back a little bit. I've got to take you back to July 2013. Now, I send Bill Maloney a message on YouTube. I've been watching a lot of different videos. Obviously, I've had a lot of spare time on my hands, and I was up quite late at night, and it's quite a usual thing. I've always been a bit of a night owl. Yeah. And so I'd watched, you know, a lot of David Icke stuff, and a lot of conspiracy. I've been through the whole 9/11 and all that. So I'm quite interested in that kind of thing. And came across Bill Maloney, Pie and Mash Films. Right. And a few of his videos, Sun, Sea and Satan, right, which is what he done when he went to Jersey and to Haute de la Garenne and the children's home and the stories behind that. Right. And also saw a lot of Bill in the faces of different politicians like Ed Balls. You know, he was in the guy's face. So Ed Balls looked hot as anything. You know, he was like, "What are you going to do about institutional child abuse happening in this country now?" And honestly, I'm thinking, "Go on, mate. Go on, mate. This is what we need. Someone who don't care. He's in their faces." So I tended to believe him then. And then he done the same thing to Ken Livingstone, where Bill runs up to Ken Livingstone on the street. I mean, you have to ask yourself how that situation even came about now. And he's run up to Ken Livingstone and he's going to him, "Do you believe children were buried at Shirley Oaks?" And Ken Livingstone says something to the effect of, how the hell should I know? And Bill says to him, "How should you know? You're the one who ordered it to be levelled." I thought, what am I seeing here? But this geezer's brilliant. This bloke is brilliant. I need to meet this bloke. So I ended up contacting him on YouTube, and I've even got the screenshot of contacting him. I'll bring it up and show it to you in a while. And a guy called Bradley Knight underneath goes, because Bill answers me back and says, "Email's in the description, email me and I'll give you my number." And the Bradley Knight underneath has gone, "Wow." Right, I'll show it to you in a minute. Yeah. And so I end up talking to Bill Maloney on the phone. And, you know, I'm supposed to be the celebrity, but I felt like, no, this geezer feels like a celebrity to me. So did David Icke, you know, because I've spoken to him on the phone as well. And Bill seemed really all right. So we agreed to meet one day, and it is when Ben Fellows, who is the guy that accused Kenneth Clark of touching him through his trousers in Jonathan Greer's office, I think it was in Dolphin Square, and Ben Fellows said he was working with a Cook report. He was 18 at the time. He was posing as a 15-year-old, and there was an investigation by the Cook report where he was in Jonathan Greer's office, and Kenneth Clark touches Ben's penis through his trousers, under the impression that Kenneth Clark was under the impression that Ben was 15. And there was that whole story going on. So Ben Fellows does this walk against corruption. We've seen that before, haven't we? 300-mile walk against corruption. Now, what's funny about that, or well, not funny really, but if I can just show you something from that, if I can just bring up Ben Fellows, let me just find him. Ben Fellows. Okay, so right, this is Ben Fellows, yeah. This guy here is Ben Fellows, and what you'll notice here is a story from an earlier time, where it says "Round the World for Charity." Ben Fellows is an award-winning film director who is planning to circumnavigate the globe in a paramotor and make a documentary about the journey. It's all to raise money for the RAF Benevolent Fund and our friends at Leonard Cheshire Disability. Ben tells us more in this post. My name is Ben Fellows and I'm a filmmaker, recently diagnosed with the heart condition, pericarditis and fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain condition. Right, I'm just going to go that far before I say anything else. So this guy's got a disability, but yet he's doing a 300-mile walk against corruption with a heart condition and fibromyalgia, which he seemed fine when I saw him, right? And this is July 2013. Yeah. So this is the same Ben Fellows, yeah? Filmmaker. Now he's going to come up quite a lot, Ben Fellows. So the first time I meet Bill Maloney, it is when this guy has finished his 300-mile walk against corruption for an activist, being an activist against child abuse, basically, right? And Bill's going to meet him now, right? And we're going to do a piece to camera, and we're going to set up a tent outside Parliament and do an Oliver Cromwell style bit of a campaign, right? That was the plan. Now, obviously, I wasn't driving at that time. I haven't driven for years now. I had to sell anything that I ever had in order to survive. And so getting to Parliament was a bit of a problem for me, right? And Bill Maloney said to me on the phone, "Don't worry, I'll send my police mate, my copper mate, he'll pick you up, bring you down, and then drop you back when we're finished." So
just before you carry on, Brian, just repeat what year that was. Just in case people...
That year was 2013, and it was July, I think. Okay, right. I'll have to double check. It could be June, July. Right, I'm sure it's July. It was before my birthday anyway, because it's August the 8th, my birthday. Okay. So it was before then, and it was definitely 2013.
2013. Okay. Yeah.
And so Bill says, "I'll send my copper mate down to pick you up." Now that policeman, who was still active at the time, was John Wedger, who is today having a go at me on Dave Witcher's Facebook, and obviously Red Pill Phil has spoken to him, which is why I had to speak out, because if you fast forward to today, 2018, obviously we're going to go through what Bill Maloney has been doing to me for the past few years, and what he led me into to entrap me. I cannot believe that John Wedger is still bigging up Bill Maloney. It shocked me, because John was a nice guy. I ain't even going to lie. John was a nice guy. I actually have got nothing against John Wedger. And the thing that made me angry was that I see him on a video. Bill Maloney's been missing for 4 years, 3-4 years, and then turns up riding in on the back of John Wedger, who was the guy that picked me up to meet Bill Maloney in July 2013 and was active at the time.
Right.
So obviously, when I saw Bill Maloney's latest video with John Wedger, the walking, whistle-blowing policeman, I was shocked to see that John was still talking to Bill, because I thought, how can John not know what Bill had been doing to me for all of these years and what he tried to lead me into in 2014? So I was shocked, which angered me. And I thought, I need to say something, because, I mean, in all fairness to John, what he's saying today is the exact same thing as what he said when I met him back then. I've heard all of this story about how he was stopped from the top and all the rest of it, and I believe him.
Yeah, we spoke about it before. I remember you saying that to me as well.
I believe him. I'm not saying I don't believe John, but my question was, really, what is Bill Maloney doing still hanging around with you? Surely you know what Bill Maloney's done to me. Surely you know he's been missing for God knows how long, for the reason being that what he's done to me. You must know that, John.
Right, and just to add something to it, the videos up on Pie and Mash, when he went missing, was his video still up on Pie and Mash, or were they down?
They was up, but I looked a few weeks ago after I put something up on Twitter where Bill Maloney said something about Jonathan King coming back into the affray. And this was back in 2014 when Bill Maloney said that. Right. We're now in 2018, and it was only a few weeks ago that Jonathan King was in the newspaper and appears to be coming back into another child abuse story. So I went straight to Twitter and put up Bill Maloney. How did you know Jonathan King was going to come back into the affray 4 years prior? And then when I went to Pie and Mash Films a couple of days after that, all his videos had gone. And I thought, what's going on here? Why have you taken all your videos down? And then since he's spoken to John Wedger and come back in on John Wedger's back, his videos are back up again.
So let's get back to this film now, the actual Invisible films.
Invisible,
the Invisible. How was that funded? Was it who actually filmed it?
I filmed it. I shot. Well, it was me and a friend of mine called Mick, who's a Muslim guy, and he came along with me. I've talked Mick into, mate, you need to buy a Canon 5D camera, right? And he's gone and spent over $2,000 buying a camera to come along and help me film.
Okay.
And so when we done this, what it was because I said to Bill, look, there's only a couple of things. I want to help you, right? And my initial idea was, look, we'll do a free camera setup, a bit like what we're doing here today. And when you film your victims or you do any of your interviews, because I believed in this guy, you should be doing a free camera setup, either 2 full shots and a wide, or 2 over the shoulders and a wide, and mic'd up. And I said, you know, what you're doing is a serious thing. So we got the cameras for that reason. And one of the other things that I said that I could do for Boo is, obviously I'm a singer, I used to be in a pop group. So I said, look, I'll make you a song and a music video for the victims. All the money can go to charity, and we'll do the video together. So when we done that video, it was not far from Aldgate East Station, somewhere around now. And there was a tower block with some flats in it. Right. And this tower block is used by the police, apparently, to sort of scan, because it's right high up. You can see the London Eye from there and everything. And John Wedger, once again, met me and Mick in a car park near there, in an NCP. We met there. And John I think he had 3 of his kids with him at the time. And Bill Maloney was there, obviously. And we went into this tower block and in and around that area, filming, doing lip sync shots, doing shots on the street and filming in this tower block that John opened up so we could get on the roof to film because we wanted that view. Because a part of the storyline was Bill Maloney was going to jump, being a victim.
Oh, okay.
And I run in and stop him at the end after bumping into him on the street. And we took a piece of the music that I had to replay, which is on the front of a lot of Bill Maloney's Pie and Mash documentaries, which I can't remember the name of it now, but it's a piece of music that he used. Ding, 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 ding. That piece of music that's on the front of piano music. And I said, that is perfect for, we'll use that in the song. So I found the keys, I replayed it and built this whole song called Invisible. And obviously the title speaks for itself, not having a voice. You know, victims, there's so many victims and they're just not heard and they're suppressed. And I can relate to that, massively I can relate to that. So making that song was quite easy, and I had another friend help me on that. A guy, a neighbour of mine, a good friend of mine, a guy called Shotty, who helped out on the lyrics and that because he's a wicked lyricist. And so we wrote this song, and then we went and done the video. And Bill Maloney and John Wedger and 3 of his kids met us. His kids were holding some of the lights in places while we were shooting and holding up a green screen on the street. I've got some footage of John and that helping us, and. You know, the video went well. We was on the tower block, you know, and once we'd finished, we went, I edited it and all the rest of it. Now, I think we must have shot the footage before Bill Maloney's introduced me to this Andrew Ash, or his full name apparently is Andrew Ashworth, who is the Operation Fernbridge witness, who was on the front page of the Express newspaper, January 12th, 2014, which was the interview that I filmed for Bill Maloney with Chris Fay in it at Andrew's house, with James Fielding from the Express interviewing Andrew. We must have shot the music video before we went to Andrew. So we've shot the video sometime in 2013, late 2013. Now, at the same time as that, I've got this phone hacking thing going on the side, which has been with me since the 24th of April 2012, where my old solicitor had called me and said, oh, I think you've got a really good case and blah, blah, blah. So that's going on the side. Completely unrelated to Bill Maloney or anything. Late 2013, around the same time, September 2013, I'd obviously been having ongoing discussions with Richard Mallett.
The solicitor.
The solicitor, who won my case in 2002. I couldn't understand why Richard Mallett, the solicitor, wasn't sending me all the old paperwork from where I'd got not guilty in the case. I said, where's Robert Kellaway's police witness statement? Where's this other geezer who was doing it? Because I couldn't remember his name at that time. I remembered Kellaway's name, but I couldn't remember Conrad Brown's name. So you think it's September 17th, 2013, and Richard Mallett had first contacted me 24th of April 2012. So, you know, we're talking around a year and a half, a year and a bit, right? And by September 17th, I've had enough of it. So I ring Mallett's office, Richard Mallett's office. He's not there. Andrew Faruga picks up, who is, I keep calling him a T-boy. I'm sorry, Andrew. I don't mean to keep calling you a T-boy. He was obviously an apprentice there at that time, right? A trainee learning. And I said, is Richard there? And he's like, no, Richard's not in the office. So I thought I'd pull a sneaky move. And I said to Andrew, do me a favour, can you just look in the box and just have a look down Robert Kellaway's police witness statement that Mallett hasn't sent me so far in all that time. And tell me the name of the guy that he had working with him again, who was doing the actual recordings. He's got a funny name. Anyway, 5 minutes later, he calls me back, this guy, and goes, I found what you're talking about. He goes, is it Conrad? I went, that's it, Conrad Brown. That's his name. Mm-hmm. Do me a favour, Andrew. Send me that witness statement. And he sent it. Mm-hmm. Clearly, he wasn't meant to, because Andrew rings me back. This is Andrew Faruga, the apprentice. Rings me back the next day. My mum heard it. It was on loudspeaker, right, the call. He rings me back the next day going, there's a lot of egos going on in that office. I'm on my way to the airport now. I'm going to Malta to be with my family. I said, what's happened? What's happened, Andrew? He said, Malik's gonna set me up and he's going to set you up. And I was like, my mum heard it. Mm-hmm. My mum heard it. So I thought, right, that's confirmed it. I was never meant to get the old paperwork. Yeah. What's Malik up to? Now, Scotland Yard are the ones, Operation Wheating, that sent the Glenn Mulcair notes, which is the private investigator that the News of the World hired to do the mobile phones, right, do the voicemails and all the rest of it, listen to the messages. That he's tasked to do these jobs, yeah. And he was tasked to do my phone by Neville Felbeck at the News of the World, because when you look on top of page 60, there's a name, it says Neville, and there's a date, 2nd of the 5th, 02. Now that 2nd of May, 02, is the same date Robert Kellaway, who says he knew nothing about hacking and is bylined on Millie Dowler's story and also recorded me. It's the same day that he transcribes his illegal recordings of me. So when I saw that, I thought, I was never supposed to put them two things together. Now the Mulcair notes, Scotland Yard released them to me through Richard Mallett. Right. Richard already knew what was on them Mulcair notes. Scotland Yard must already know Richard Mallett, right? So what I believe they've done is, because Richard Mallett won my case against the News of the World in 2002, I got not guilty, I believe Scotland Yard have a relationship with Richard Mallett and have sent Richard Mallett to me to give him the authority legally for Scotland Yard to release the Mulcair notes to Mallett, for me, because they're going to send me someone clearly who I'm supposed to trust. Mind games, right? I'm going to trust him without a doubt. Yeah. So on the 24th of April, 2012, which is when Richard Mallett, it's nearly 10 years to the day I was hacked. My first hacking is 26th of April, 2002. This guy comes to me on the 24th of April, 2012. You see what I'm saying? Richard rings me, and he rung me through another guy that was managing me at that period, a guy called Simon Harrison. Simon Harrison rings me and says, I've had a phone call today from a Richard Mallett. Do you know who he is? Straight away, alarm bells started ringing, because when Simon Harrison started managing me, it was right after Mallett had won my case for me in 2003.
Yeah, and he's asking you, do you know who he is?
Yeah, he knew who he was. So alarm bells were ringing now. But anyway, I dismissed it for the while, and I said, what does he want? What does he want? He goes, said you could be involved in the phone hacking payouts here. He said, he's talking big figures, mate, like millions. I'm like, what? So give me his number. So I then ring Richard Mallett. This is on the 24th of April 2012. And, hello, Richard. Hello, Brian. All right, Richard, how's it going? What's this about the, I've been told to ring you about, what's this about phone? I said, look, is there legs in this, Richard? Because if there ain't, I don't really want to be going through all court cases and stuff like that, so I'm not really in a great place to be going through all of that. And his words to me was, there's definitely legs in it. This is a slam dunk case, and this is worth millions. And if I get you millions, you know the other side pay the costs. And my words to him were, I'm loving you right now.
Yeah.
I'm jumping up and down thinking, what? So, so that very day, Simon says to me, write out a thing, sign it, scan it, send it back to Richard, so he's got the authority legally to go to Scotland Yard and have whatever they've got released into his care. So that's what I do. And I have that here, which I'll show you. This is Richard Mallett, by the way. This is the only picture that you can find of him on the internet. This is him, yeah? This is Richard Mallett. So if I go down out, and this is interesting as well, I need to come back to Mallett on this Guardian story. Very interesting, confirms what I was saying. Hang on, no, let me go to phone hacking. I've put him in the wrong one now. So if I go to phone hacking and tapping, here we go. So if I go in here, I have got his statement. I'll find it in a minute. But basically, it says, I authorise Mallett solicitors to go to the Metropolitan Police on my behalf and ascertain whether I've been the victim of telephone hacking. Now, telephone hacking falls under criminal, okay? And Mallett knows that I was phone tapped. Although I didn't understand the logistics of it at that time. I just wanted not guilty in 2002, what's going on in my life. But Mallett knew. So I signed a thing saying to, you know, for Mallett to go to Scotland Yard to ascertain whether I'd been the victim of telephone hacking. Now, he already knew that I'd been the victim of telephone hacking. He should have been saying to me, doesn't matter what they've got, I've got it all here. You know, whatever they pull out can only be a bonus. He ain't, right? And he's not sending me all the paperwork from 2002 either. So, so I've signed this document for Richard Mallett, and then I don't hear from him no more. I've rung up a few times, is Richard there, is Richard there? Yeah, we're going to send you a bundle. Can you have a look through and see if you remember the phone number from this and that? Basically, they sent me a bullshit bundle to go through just to waste my time, basically. Can you find anything there? Bundle of nothingness they sent me. Articles and all of this stuff. Just pinpointing some things that you may get a 10 to 15 grand payout on, right? So, we get to the end of the year. You know, I'm getting frustrated. And then the beginning of the next year, 29th of January 2013, Richard comes back to me and makes me sign another document, which now says, at the time I didn't realise the terms had changed, all right, because I'm not a lawyer. But it says that I agree that I have been contacted by the respondent, the Commissioner of the Metropolis, in relation to mobile telephone voicemail interception litigation. Now, the mobile interception stuff had been put into a civil claims compensation scheme. So the terms have changed. It's gone from criminal to civil now. And so I've signed it, not knowing, whatever, you know what I mean? Signed it, sent it to him. But when I read it properly now, I've not been contacted by the Commissioner, but I've been made to sign a document that says that alludes to some sort of conversation we've had, you know? I agree, I've been contacted by the respondent, the Commissioner of the Metropolis. I've never had such a conversation. And so the terms have also changed from criminal to civil now. And but I don't understand that at the time. It's only later that all these things start coming to light, when I find out what's going on. So then I give him the benefit of the doubt for a while, and still nothing is really happening. And then he comes back and says they want to pay you £5 grand. right?
From millions to 5 grand.
From millions to 5 grand. And I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on? And there was a point where, obviously, I've had a right go at Mallet now. I mean, I've got the email. I'm calling him all the names under the sun, and what are you doing, blah, 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 you know. Well, how's it gone to 5 grand from obviously millions and all that? So that's when I really start looking into my own paperwork, you know, like trying to understand. And it was bloody hard, Ed. It was hard.
I'm sure.
You know, I've already got other stuff going on, you know what I mean? Bipolar affective disorder, depression. You know, there was already all the backstory from '97 with other stuff that's been gone on with me that, you know, no one knows. And I just thought, God. And so we're in 2013 now. So now when you fast forward to September 17th, 2013, I've had enough of being ignored by Mallet. I ring the office. Andrew Faruga, the apprentice, sends me Kellaway's statement, which I haven't had up until that point. Once I get Kellaway's statement, I can see on there he's saying, well, I'll tell you what, this is Robert Kellaway, by the way. This is the guy's statement that I got, Robert Kellaway, and this is from one of the articles because Robert Kellaway was bylined on the Millie Dowler story. Right. Now, officially, this is from Peter Jukes' live tweet in here at the trial. You can see here, Peter Jukes, call from Court 12, the Old Bailey, Wednesday, 6th of November 2013. Now this is where the problem is. I've got his statement in September 2013. This guy's speaking November 2013. I didn't know that though. Peter Jukes is back in court. Timeline Millie Dowler continues. Giving evidence, Robert Kellaway, former News of the World reporter. Okay, so that's the date when he does it. Now, here's his police witness statement. Robert Kellaway, in my case, and he gives evidence against me dated on the 15th day of August 2002. The sting on me was done in April 26. So you got April, May, June, July, August, like 4 months later, right? He's getting his statement together. And you can see, he says here, I've worked as a News of the World reporter for the News of the World for 3 years and 4 months. At about 12:45 p.m. on Friday the 26th of April, I was in the canteen at work when I was contacted by Greg Miskill. There's a spelling mistake there, and that is on the original paperwork also. It's Greg Miskill, the news editor. Who I've had a phone conversation with, and it's on my YouTube channel. He asked me to liaise with Stian Alexander, who's another reporter at the News of the World. I returned to the office and spoke to Stian. He introduced me on the telephone to Kamal Zorba. Now this is the guy who claims that I've asked him to set up my wife, right? Because there's a custody battle. It wasn't even a custody battle going on. I just wasn't allowed to see my child at that time. And what I later found out was that this guy had an affair with my ex-wife that I didn't know about. Right. But yet the newspaper wanted to claim that I've hired an anonymous hitman to drug and sexually degrade my wife. They forget to mention he's an ex-boyfriend of hers while she was with me. Right. Okay. So anyway, Kamal, if I just go to this part out, Kamal said that he wanted to get paid for the story. So it wasn't a moral issue. Right. I was speaking to Kamal on the phone in one hand, this is Robert Kellaway, and to Greg Miskill over my shoulder. I offered about 5 grand, I believe, initially. They like offering 5 grand, don't they? Kamal said he wanted more than that. We agreed that he would be paid £20,000 if the story was on the front page and £15,000 if it was on the inside page. Stian and I drove to Kamal Zorba's home address in Chinkford in separate cars. When we got there, Kamal Zorba, who explained the story in more detail, I also called Conrad Brown. Oh, yes. Right, now that is Mazen Mahmood's partner. Only works with Mazen Mahmood, according to Peter Jukes. And Christopher Ball, who was apparently a photographer, who had already been contacted. I briefed them on the story. They also came to the address. Right, so I don't want to give away anyone's address here. Right, and we went to a nearby pub. This is after they've done what they've done to me. I understand that photographs were taken of Kamal with these items. Now, these items are camera, cash, and a wrap.
And a wrap.
Right? Right. I took these items from Kamal Zulba in the pub. I gave the wrap to Steve and Alexander. Here's a funny thing. Kamal Zulba, his old man was active police at the time.
Right.
If this is all true, why wasn't I arrested on the spot? What are you lot doing in the pub, working out what you're going to do?
How you going to share it around?
Yeah, how you going to work this out? All right. Then I sat down and went through. Oh, hold on. I gave the wrap to Steve and Alexander to take them directly to Dr. Jack Chuddy, not the police. Dr. Jack Chuddy of Volker Science. Now, this Volker Science is some drugs lab that the News of the World had.
So their own laboratory, basically.
Their own friend at a laboratory that they use all of the time. And this name's come up. I spoke to John Alford. This name's come up before. Right? I took the camera and cash from Kamal and kept them. Then I sat down and went through Kamal's story and made shorthand notes. This is Robert Kellaway. I subsequently was given 5 audio cassettes by Conrad Brown with the recordings he had made of Kamal Zulba's conversation with Reese Morris, my best friend who's now dead, and Brian Harvey. I made transcripts of these conversations using my laptop computer. I emailed these transcripts to Detective Sergeant Werrett on the 9th of May 2002. The words in brackets indicate either where I'm unsure of what was said because I couldn't hear it properly, or my own clarifications. This is explained at the top of the email. I produced the transcripts of conversations below. Right, and then he goes on to detail some of the conversations that he's done now. Right, and then he says this. We put Kamal up in hotels. He received phone calls on his mobile telephone from Reese Morris and Brian Harvey. He's talking about this Kamal now. They had apparently discovered what Kamal had done and made threats to him in the event the story was published in the News of the World. I didn't threaten him. This is interesting. Robert Kellaway says he knew nothing of phone hacking, right? Officially. I have a micro cassette with recordings of most of those conversations. Either Kamal or I actually recorded them. I shall transcribe the calls. Kamal was paid in 5 instalments, a total of £15,000. I subsequently took the camera and cash to Loughton Police Station on the 8th of May 2002. No mention of cocaine, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. This is one of the Mulcair notes with my mobile number. Should be a separate, unrelated issue, right? Now, this is page 60 of Glenn Mulcair's notes on me that the News of the World were tasking him to do. Top left there, Neville, that means for Neville Felbeck, 2nd of the 5th, 02, 2nd of May, 02. My story goes out on the 5th of May. This is the Thursday just before, okay? Right, now watch this. This is what Kellaway said to the hacking inquiry. Kellaway, there was a lot of wastage in reporting. The cut-off point was around Thursday night. Thursday, 2nd of the 5th, 02. Right, he's talking about another story here. Come Sunday, lo and behold, not in paper, all right? Now, let me just show you. Now, you see Kellaway said that on the 9th of May, he sends an email to DS Werrett. Well, this is that email.
Right.
From Robert Kellaway to DS Werrett at Loughton Police. Dear Mr. Werrett, as requested, here are the transcripts of the conversations I outlined to you yesterday. I've put them in chronological order, starting with Reese Morris's call to Zulba's mobile telephone, then Harvey's call to Zulba, finally Harvey's discussion with Zulba in the car, which is transcribed in 2 sections. Any commentary on the transcript appears in brackets and was intended for use by my office. Transcript of conversation between Kamal Zulba and a friend of Brian Harvey's known to Zorba as Reese Morris, a drug dealer. He was not a drug dealer. Kamal called Brian Harvey's mobile telephone. Kamal called my mobile telephone, right, at 15:40 hours on the 26th of April 2002. Reese responded by calling Zorba's mobile at 15:45. Transcript of this call begins at 20:27 hours on
2nd of May.
2nd of the 5th, 02. Right, now I was never meant to marry that up with the Mulcair note, which is why my solicitor, who won my case for the News of the World back then, didn't want to send me any of the old paperwork. You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, and it gets worse. Then, if we go to Richard Mallett's folder, which I've got here, this is Richard Mallett. The Guardian, right? Sun Royal Editor to be charged over alleged payments to Soldier. And this is on, oh look, 24th of April 2013, right? But that's not the thing, that's just another coincidence. Sun Royal Editor. Now the Sun is part of News International PLC, okay? Sun Royal Editor to be charged over alleged payments to Soldier. Duncan Larkham, accused of paying sergeant at Sandhurst Military Academy for stories related to the royal family. Right, the Sun's Royal Editor Duncan Larkham has been charged, blah, blah, blah. Right, let's get to the second page of that. Larkham's solicitor, Richard Mallett, says that his client denies any wrongdoing. Mallett said Mr. Larkham categorically denies any wrongdoing and is entirely confident that the matter will be resolved and he will be exonerated in full. Now, Richard Mallett's been working for me since the 24th of April 2012, all the way up until September at least, right? September 17th, at least up till then. He's working with Duncan Larkham in April 2013. That's the same time he's working with me. Yeah. So what are you doing, working for me, getting Scotland Yard to send you the Mulcair notes from the same company, basically, that you don't want to send to me, right? Scotland Yard don't want to talk to me when I go back there and show them their own notes. And the notes that you do give to me through Mallet solicitors, i.e. the Glenn Mulcair notes, page 58 and page 60. No, page 59. You know what's on page 59? Robert Kellaway leaves me a message on the 3rd of the 5th, 02, which would be the Friday before the story comes out on the Sunday. Didn't want me to have that. So why is everyone covering up and appear to be helping Robert Kellaway's name come into light? He's given evidence to the hacking inquiry. I've got his police witness statement just before he was going to talk in November 2013. Andrew, the apprentice at Mallett's, has called me scared for his life because obviously 2 months later, Kellaway's going to give evidence and he's going to say, I know nothing about phone hacking or Millie Dalla. Yeah, I got your police witness statement from the same month, April 2002, when you're supposed to know nothing of phone hacking. But you see his police witness statement and he agrees that either Kamal or I recorded those conversations. That is knowledge of phone hacking and that is what is going on.
So,
another interesting thing. Now, when I get the apprentice at Mallett's, when he actually sends me Robert Kellaway's police witness statement, look who I copy in on it, because I think they're my mate. "18th of September 2013 from Andrew Ferrugia, Robert Kellaway's police witness statement." Who do I copy in on it? Bill at Pie and Mash Films. Are you with me so far?
Yeah, I'm with you, Papa.
And it gets much worse than this. Much, much worse than this. Yet, I'm a nutcase. And I don't know what I'm talking about. And according to this Dave Witcher, who's been talking to John Wedger.
To John Wedger, who actually said he didn't actually read. I didn't hear. I did not hear. I didn't listen to all.
You didn't hear, my friend, because you didn't want to hear. You don't want to hear. Because Bill Maloney, who takes me to go and see Bill Maloney the first time? John Wedger. Now, I'm not saying that John Wedger's dodgy. I'm not saying that. I liked John. Right? I liked him. Mick, the guy that records with me, he liked him. Now, John, you either know Bill Maloney's dodgy, right, or you're being played right now. And I will give evidence as to why, if you are being played, I'll show you evidence of how he's played me. And then you can make up your mind. Why would I give you my phone number through Redfield Pill if I didn't want to talk to you and tell you about these things in case you didn't know? And the main thing that I wanted to tell you about was that an Operation U-Tree Fairbank officer by the name of DC Tony Atkin was really interested in you and rung me in 2015 and said, would I be willing to give evidence against you? And I said no. Because I said, why am I going to give evidence against John? He's a nice bloke. And in your defence, what you're saying today to the Commission and to everyone else is exactly what you said to me 5 years ago. And it is around 5 years ago now. His story hasn't changed. I've got nothing against John Wedger. But when I see Bill Maloney, I have to ask, what is going on? Bill Maloney has tried to entrap me with this Andrew Ash Fernbridge witness, which we'll get to. But this here alone is enough.
This here alone, this is damning enough. But it gets worse. It gets worse from what I've seen. It gets worse.
So much worse.
It gets worse.
You know, Ed, I wouldn't go out there shouting about things that I couldn't prove, mate.
Well, like I said, Brian, from my come to see you, and I listened to what you had to say. I was. Like I said, I said to the people it's going to be interesting what's being said. I haven't seen anything that you said about John Wedger that's out of order. I
haven't put him down.
It was, and to set the record straight, right? It was Brian that contacted me to ask Red Pill to give the number to John Wedger. Right? Brian and Red Pill Phil have not talked.
No, we haven't spoke yet.
They haven't spoke yet to this day. It's just been, I've been speaking to Red Pill Phil, right? On sometimes Brian's behalf. Right? And we were meant to actually do a interview before John came on the scene with Bill Maloney and, Bill, my mate, But that fell through meanwhile, and, and now everything's for a reason anyway, because the light always will shine in the darkness. But I tell you what, Brian, we'll leave it for now. Yeah, we'll get on to...
Can we leave everyone so that... I'll tell you what I would like to do. I would like to just play you one more thing.
Yeah, of course.
Which, if people still think Bill Maloney's all right... I just want to squash that for him right now.
No problem.
And maybe even give John Wedger something to think about.
No problem. You go for it, friend.
All right, there's two things.
I think there might be three.
No, there's many. There's many.
Pick and choose, bruv. See right. Smarties.
Here's the first one. There's two things I'm going to leave the public with.
Right,
right?
No problem.
Here's the first one. This is what Bill Maloney said to me once I started to see what was going on.
Now, before I tell you this, right, before we start this, we've got to keep still. Right? And the first thing I'm going to tell you is that there is a name, my name, is on the hit list.
What? From who?
I can't tell you tell you, it came from a barrister.
A barrister? Yeah, well, Bill, we need to know.
No, right, let me just say it. I just can't.
You get fucking...
No, this is your choice you've got to make now. I'm giving you this choice. Alright? My name is, we've been told by a barrister, on a hit list. Alright?
Right.
Now, that means that anyone who works around me, they're involved. You've got to think about this. You've got to think about your families. And you've really got to think about this. Right? That's what I can tell you on that. Okay? That's the bad side. That's the bad side. That's as bad as it gets.
Right.
Right? You both understand that?
I think we're on the ride already, Bill. It was too fucking late to do years
now, listen mate, the serious, it's like death threats and all this bollocks going around. I'm on a fucking hit list. I just want Brian to get this story. Alright, let me just tell you, right? I'm just telling you that this barrister has told us that my name is on the hit list.
Yes, I'm all on it.
Right. Now, how do you feel about all that?
I'm fucking scared of them. Bill, I've had enough of threats, mate.
Right, now, interview. Listen, as far as the interview's concerned, right, we've got James of the Express, right? James is going to help me put my story out, and that includes my family's story as well, okay? My other sister, right now, as we're talking, is dying of fucking cancer of the spine. You know what I mean?
How comes all dying?
He wants to put...
That's the first clip I'm going to play you. And believe me, I've got a wealth of these things.
Wait a minute, Brian, you just made a statement there. You said at the end, how comes you always dying?
The guy's had so many family members die within a year. You know, my brother Peter, my sister, cancer of the spine. It was like any time you confront Bill about something, he's got to come back with something to stop you in your tracks. You know, this is more important. Have that. You know, and if it's real, you're going to go, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Bill, do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? But he does it every time. Right, I've got one more thing to play
go
on.
Go for it.
Right, so I'll just give you a little bit of a run up to this one. This is now in January 2014, when Bill Maloney takes me and my friend Mick to Hull with Chris Fay. Chris Fay picks us up, so there's me and Mick, Bill Maloney and Chris Fay. Get picked up here in Chris Fay's BMW and driven to Hull to go and film Andrew Ash.
Or Andrew Ashworth.
His full name apparently is Andrew Ashworth. And he is the guy with the front page story that I've been posting up for years. The Express, James Fielding, female MP abuses boy in care. No names are named. And this is Andrew on the front page. It is also put in the Mirror as well on the front page. So we filmed the Express interview. Then that evening we're staying in a cabin in Hull because we was going to do the edit up now. And then Bill was going to film Andrew the next day for a pie and mash interview. After we've done the Express interview, Bill brings Andrew back to the cabin with us. Now I'm suggesting this is all planned. The next morning we do the pie and mash interview that Bill never posts, by the way. Andrew is confirming a list of people that he says abuses him. And don't forget that this whole trip is funded by Ian Puddick.
Interesting name, that one.
Yeah. You've seen the receipt. You've seen a quote from his own Twitter account. My role was to provide Brian Harvey £500 for an injury recorder to film interviews.
You'll put that up on this as well.
I'll put that up on this as well.
Yeah.
Also, you'll note that Ian Puddick has said he's even interviewed Andrew himself. I've seen that interview in Bill Maloney's flat. See if you can tell me what's wrong. Now, this ain't all of the list that Andrew's alleging, that he's confirming, with Chris Fay in the background confirming certain names. Now, this was never posted by Bill. Tell me if you can note or spot what's wrong with this list?
Before I tell you this,
oh,
right,
hang on, sorry, no, wrong one.
Start this. We've got to keep story. Right, and the first thing I'm going to tell Simon Cowell.
Yes.
Max Bygraves.
Yes. If you recognise anyone.
David Frost.
No.
Alan Wicker.
Yes.
Richard Mallet.
Yes.
Your solicitor.
Yeah.
Ted Heath.
Yes.
Right before Ted Heath, you know.
Okay. Yes means Andrew had sex with them. Confirmed means other victims have come forward and has been confirmed by NAPIC.
Right. One last bombshell. Mm-hmm. One last bombshell. Richard Mallet, my phone hacking solicitor, the one that didn't want to send me Kellaway's statement, that I got from his apprentice September 2013. We're now January 2014. And I copied Bill in on Robert Kellaway's police witness statement the day I got it. Bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Now, Bill Maloney's funder is Ian Puddick, yeah? And we've got him admitting that on tape many times. Ian Puddick. We used to have the best police service on the world. Ron Puddick, ex-counter-terrorism officer, my dad. I thought Ian Puddick had a story out saying counter-terrorism police were tracking him and spent £1.5 million tracking Ian Puddick. But that's not the thing. I mean, that's shocking enough. There's the receipt for the Ninja recorder that was bought to film Andrew Ash, who was going to name my phone hacking solicitor. Same guy that's had my computers taken. But I reported him first. That's in 2015. Says I was sectioned. I was never sectioned. There's Peter Jukes confirming. Kellaway confirms he knew nothing of phone hacking or Millie Dowler's voicemails being accessed. After I talked to Peter Jukes, Ian Puddick lets me know that he's spoken to him. Hi Peter, thanks for the chat. But this is the one really that does it for me. Because Neil Wallace is on an email with Andy Coulson, Tom Crone, as part of my evidence, which states what was published in the newspaper from private telephone conversations. And Ian Puddick and Neil Wallace know each other. Now, do you think that when I copied Bill Maloney in on Robert Kellaway's police witness statement that I was never meant to get, Ian Puddick then decided to buy me a Ninja recorder so I could go and film Andrew? And if you want confirmation of that, I mean, not only does Ian Puddick know I contacted Met Commissioner Chris Dick directly and made the complaint. That's from his original account. He obviously knows the Commissioner. Here is the email in full, where you can see Tom Crone, Neil Wallace, Andy Coulson. And this bit down here contains parts of private telephone conversations that are outlined, that we was never given the tapes for in the disclosure. Here's Ian Puddick admitting on the 24th of the 7th, 2015, ex-Brian Harvey, ex-17 is nutter. There's that agenda again, that narrative, nutter. He's called the cops and reported me for harassment. They laughed at him and left. He's a freak. Ian Puddick. Here's Ian Puddick at a pre-hacking trial, Curry, with Peter Jukes. Yeah? There's Puddick. There's Puddick. There's Peter Jukes. Ian Puddick's Twitter account. My role was to provide £500 for Brian Harvey to buy a Ninja recorder for interviews. He didn't ask you, whoever was talking to him. Ian Puddick's genuine account. You tell me what you think's going on. I know what I think.
Yeah, obviously he's Bill Maloney's funder. Bill Maloney at the same time is saying that there's no threats against you. You're not being. No, you're all right. Then the next minute you are. Next minute
there's an email. Hidden nonsense of grafting, mate.
And then the email comes into it, and now this guy, he seems for some reason to be running the same spin now, because it seems like you've just got too much and you're linking things together.
Yeah.
You know.
And they don't like it.
And they don't like it. So I can only feel for yourself and people like the young lady. Melanie Shaw, because this seems to be
and Andrew Ash.
I
believe he's been made to discredit himself.
Absolutely.
Because I believe there's some truth to some of his stories.
Absolutely. Because
mix the truth with lies, and then it all becomes bollocks.
There are certain sections of video that you have with Bill Maloney interviewing Andrew Ash where you can see he's clearly been coaxed. It's almost like there's an add-on story by Bill to sort of like spice it up a bit.
Can I show you a bit of that?
Listen, let's go for it. Well, you know what, John, you need to watch this, my friend, because like I said, I've got nothing against you personally, but what we're seeing here,
Let me show you how Bill...
I think Brian, like Red Pill Phil said, Brian needs to be heard, and I just hope people are listening here.
Before I show you him talking to a witness in a despicable manner, I want to show you something that he did before he was ever going on about child abuse.
That's what acting is. Acting is lying. Acting is making an audience believe that what they're seeing is really happening. That what they're seeing is really happening. So you're deceiving them. Really happening. So you're deceiving them. So if we can continue to deceive you, and you enjoy it, we're liars. We're liars.
So he was an actor before?
He was an actor before. And if you want confirmation of that, check Bill Maloney's IMDb and you'll see that he was in a film called Trauma in 2004, where the star of that film was Colin Firth. And this is long before he was ever talking about child abuse. And this is how he talks to a victim.
Hang on, after me. Come forward.
Come forward.
Victims, come forward.
Victims, come forward.
To be or not to be?
To be or not to be?
No.
To be.
After me, wait for me, get the time, right? Come forward.
Come forward.
Victims, come forward.
Victims, come forward.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
Now do it on your own.
Victims.
No, again. Come forward.
Come forward.
Again, keep saying it. Come forward. Come forward. Keep saying it.
Come forward. Come forward.
Keep saying it.
Come forward.
Now say it quickly.
Come forward.
Come forward. Quickly. Come forward. Come forward.
Come forward. Come forward. Come forward.
Right now, victims come forward.
Victims come forward.
Victims come forward. Say it fast.
Victims come forward.
Keep going.
Victims come forward. Victims come forward. Victims come forward. Victims come forward.
Now say this. Come forward. Victims come forward.
Come forward. Victims come forward.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
To be or not to be, that is a question.
To be or not to be, that is a question.
To be or not to be, that is a question.
Now, come forward. Victims come forward. To be or not to be, that is the question.
No.
No, come forward.
Come forward. Victims come forward. To be or not to be, that is the question.
I can't watch any more of that. I can't watch any more of that. So, when John Wedger pipes up and says that I'm all wrong and that, sorry mate, but this ain't right. This ain't right. I'm not saying John, let me just make it clear, I'm not saying John's lying. His story's been consistent, but you've got Bill Maloney around you, and if you haven't seen enough evidence already that Bill Maloney is a wrong 'un, then I'm just going to have to keep coming with it. right? I'm going to have to just keep coming with it, and I will keep coming with it. I'm not out to discredit John. I watched you on that commission, John, and I was rooting for you, right? I was rooting for you because you are ex-Old Bill, and you are saying the right things. The only thing that's wrong is Bill Maloney. This is what I can't work out. I don't believe John's wrong, and I don't. And I want to state that now. I support what John's doing on that commission and getting people to come forward. If John's being played to get these people to come forward so people like Bill Maloney can target them, because he's targeted me, how does John know that he's not being targeted as well? John, be careful, mate, please. That's why I wanted to ring you and talk to you. I gave you my number through Redfield Pill, right? I'm not against you, mate. I'm not against you. But please, Bill Maloney, open your eyes up. I'm going to come with more. There's going to be more parts to this interview. I'm going to come with more, and it's going to overwhelm you. I could show you stuff that's going to show. He's told me my life's in danger, like he had the power to stop me being on a death list. Wouldn't tell me, your life's in danger. Who is it, Bill? I can't tell you. I can't say. What?
Well, you know, I mean, you've got to remember, Brian, you're supposed to be suffering from mental health. So, I mean...
Well, if you wasn't, if I wasn't, I bloody am now.
That's what I'm saying. And obviously, what we're looking at, what Mr. Puddick...
And Puddick's funding the whole thing.
And he's spinning the same thing as well. It's almost like... Brian Harvey's paranoid, as you can see. And
you're only too happy to push that narrative as well.
What I actually see is this, Brian. I'll be honest with you. I've seen so much stuff you've got. It's documented, dated. It rolls off your tongue like it's just, well, it's like you're breathing. That's how easy it seems. My friend, if for someone that has a mental disability, my friend, I mean, you surpass me by a million miles. And that's what I actually drew me to you and said, this guy needs to be heard. Because I think for the most part, people believe the hype and the lie because they're too lazy to check it out for themselves. You know?
And the thing that these people have all got on me that I can't do anything about it, I've got no money, I can't afford a lawyer, and even yet, I won't set up a GoFundMe page until I know that things are moving in the right direction. I just need a lawyer.
I know what you're saying.
If I can get, I don't even trust the lawyers, mate. They're all part of Legal 500 and all that, and Richard Mallet. I mean, look, I even contacted Millie Dowler's lawyer, the Dowler family's lawyer. He knows Richard Mallet. I sent him all of the Kellaway stuff and all that. You know what he said to me? I sent it to him on a Friday. He come back on a Monday. I can't touch this. I said, what, you MC Hammer? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't touch this. Why can't you touch it? Go back and tell the Dowler family that Robert Kellaway did know about phone hacking, right? Because he was doing me the same month as Millie's getting done, yet he's distanced himself. And no one wants to send me Kellaway's statement so I can point all of this out just before Robert Kellaway's going to talk in the inquiry.
Not only that...
And confirm he knew nothing, backed up by Peter Dukes at Hacked Off, that know the truth, that are supposed to be there for a free and accountable press and have done nothing.
If they do touch it, Mr. Murdoch has to come into play somewhere along
Murdoch's coming to court. You're coming to court, Rupert Murdoch. You're not getting away with this. You are coming to court and you will be held accountable. Right? You will be held accountable. You threaten me all you want. You're going to be held accountable for what you've done.
Yeah. So if we want to be heard as a people, as a nation that seems to be politically correct, or political correctness seems to be the rule of the day, and we don't stand up for people like Brian and, you know, show some sort of support, then maybe we deserve to end up in the madness, you know? Because, I mean, you know, if you're sitting about and you do nothing about it, then maybe the powers that be are the people we deserve.
It's time to stand up, man, and do something about this.
It's time to stand up and get real. I mean, you know, it's obvious our press is absolutely corrupt to the hilt. And, you know, like I say, I mean, I've listened to John Wedger speak, and, you know, he seems a pretty decent guy for the most part. But
he's not a bad guy. I mean, he's not a bad guy.
But the only thing that confuses me is that...
Bill Maloney.
Yeah, and the thing that confuses me more is that you still haven't received a phone call up to now.
Listen, I'm open to talk to John Wedger, I'm not here to put the boot into him and say he's a liar and that. I'm not here to do that. You know, I just thought that he needs to know what Bill Maloney has done to me and others, right? And that this copper from Operation Fairbank and U-Tree, who now sent me an email saying I no longer work for U-Tree. Why? Because I wouldn't give evidence against John Wedger. I said I wouldn't do it. I said no.
So tell me something. At the end of the day, if obviously Bill Maloney seems to be tied in this madness, right? Puddock seems to be tied in with the madness.
Yeah, he feels like the ringleader to me, Puddock.
So somewhere along the line, Bill Maloney more than likely is working for Puddock, who's working for maybe MI5. And if you've got a certain person around like Bill Maloney, from what I'm seeing there, what you're really saying is, how can you trust someone like Bill Maloney when you're supposed to be interviewing whistleblowers? Is it possible that the whistleblowers have been set up by this man?
It's very possible.
Is it possible?
By the top.
It's just food for thought. It's just food for thought, because obviously if someone could go that low, especially with someone with mental health.
MI5, MI6 set up to protect the Tories? Wasn't that set up to protect the Tories, which a lot of these victims seem to be coming out with? You know, Leon Britton and all the rest of it and that, wasn't they? I'm asking a question. I'm not saying.
Yeah, no, it's a question. Yeah. Food for thought. You know, I told you there's a couple of curveballs in this interview, and there's more. There's more.
There's much more.
There's a lot more, and
we could do a chat like this once a week for 3 years, and you still wouldn't have got everything out that I've got.
I think I'm just to plug this as well. Red Pill Phil will be doing an interview with Brian at some point soon.
Yeah.
Because Phil said he reckons Brian's voice should be heard, just like John Wedger's voice was
heard.
Thank
you for that, Phil.
Thank
you for that.
I really appreciate it. He's a very fair man. He's a very fair man.
I appreciate it.
He's a very fair man.
We need.
He's a very fair man.
Going to act fairly.
And I respect him to the utmost. I really do.
Yeah, respect him. Respect Phil.
You got to remember, folks. Look, I've been on this YouTube thing for 3 months and I think it's 5 days. I just came yesterday. But there's just seemed to be a lot of things that come my way. But I'll tell you what it is, and what certain people are showing me. If you speak honestly, right, and if you speak truthfully and you call things out for what it is, right, good people, right, with good intentions who have been screwed over will always come your way, right, and I will be able to help them, right. So let this be a lesson for everybody, all the other YouTubers, right. If you don't sell out and you're truthful, good people will always come your way that have been obviously mistreated by the system, and certain people that pretend to be your friends but they're not. You know what, Brian? So I mean, like I said, there's more to this. There might be another part to this interview.
I think we should do another part.
Yeah, I think we should do another part. I mean, if you're happy with that, Brian, then I'm all good. Like
I said to you, Ed, man, I trust you, mate.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm just being real. I mean, I'm asking the questions myself. I'm not, like I said to you from the beginning, Brian, and I say to my subscribers, right, on Eddieisok, I'm not looking any friends. I'm just, if it stinks, I call it out. It doesn't matter who it is. And this clearly stinks. So I'm saying to you now, folks, Brian Harvey, back in the day of E17, was psychologically killed by a system, right? Now he's reborn and he's gonna have his word, and he's having his word, and he will continue having his word as long as there's people like myself and other YouTubers out there, Big Up, etc. You know, we can't really depend on the mainstream media. You know, we have got to become our own media. You know, but sometimes it's a thing like
they're too tied in with government.
You know, we can't always be on you know, we can't always be on the same page. Life isn't like that. Some people have to be held to account. And John, it would be nice what I'm hearing the guys saying, and I will just say again what Red Pill said. Red Pill said that if Brian and John should come together and talk. He's got no problem with you, John. It's just that the company you're keeping, my friend, I think Brian thinks that you're either being set up, and if you don't call Brian, right, and with all what's been said here, then we have to think of ourselves, it's not guilt by association. It's guilt by cooperation once you see what Brian is saying here. Anyway, Brian, should we wrap it up for now?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah.
Anyway, Eddie's okay. We're going to be doing another part to this video, so hope to see you guys soon. Yeah, bye.
Fucking hands are sweating, mate. It's like,
Brian, you're a diamond. You know that. I'm watching you. I'm thinking to myself, this guy's got a memory like. I'm thinking you were wasted as a pop star.